Hey Arnie, can you tell us about the EU countermeasures to US tariffs? Oh, of course I can. But are you ready for something rather complicated? I'm not sure. Welcome to ask the customs manager. You're asking the customs manager, and I am the customs manager, and I will answer you. That is what this is all about. If you like this kind of stuff, you want to ask your own question, email info@customsmanager.org. Ask your question, I'll pick it up, and then I'll answer it. So I'll try to do it brief, but it's a complicated subject. Um, EU countermeasures on US steel and aluminum tariff explained. Okay, so this relates to the 12th March imposition of tariff up to 25% on imports of steel, aluminum, and other derivatives, certain other products that contain steel and aluminum from the European Union to the US. In response to these high tariffs, the European Commission launched a series of countermeasures which will kick into operation, into force at certain points in time. So they say the aim is to protect European business from these extra tariffs, but also workers and consumers from these unjustified trade restrictions. So first, a bit of context. We have to go back in time. In June 2018, the first Trump administration introduced tariffs already on European steel and aluminum. These were these Section 232 tariffs. And that targeted 4.6 billion euros of EU goods. In January 2020, additional tariffs were imposed, affecting 40 million euros worth of goods, including certain steel derivatives, aluminium products, etc. The EU now responded to this with a so-called rebalancing measure. 2018, the response was structured in two phases, two sets of measures, if you wish. They were called Annex 1 and Annex 2. And in each of these annexes of the 2018 response, there were different categories of products. So the EU did not respond steel against steel, aluminum, because that's not, if you know about tariffs and about how this works, this is not the right response. You are targeting the products that hurt, impact the US in this case, as much as it impacts to have the steel and the aluminum subject to higher duty. So you would target those sensitive areas, Kentucky bourbon, Harley Davidson motorbikes, real American products, so to speak. So Annex 1 targeted billions of worth of US goods that would be hit with an additional duty on import into the EU, and Annex 2 then another set of goods. So Annex 1 came into force immediately. Annex 2 was scheduled to enter into force in June 2021, but before the scheduled implementation date of Annex 2, the EU suspended all the measures, so both annexes, until the 31st of March 2025. And now it is pretty easy for the EU to say, well, these rebalancing measures of the past will just let this suspension expire. And when the suspension expires, they automatically kick back in. Now, there are questions around the date when this will happen. And there is a hope that it might not need to happen. But this is the mechanism. Okay, so the first set is to let the past become the present again, if you want it simplified. So the idea is, of course, that if we negotiate a settlement, and then we don't need to suspend the suspension, if you want. Okay. So now we get to the current situation. What do we have on the 12th of March? So we will see that the US will reinstate, or has reinstated, I should say, reinstated the June 2018 Section 232 tariffs on steel and aluminum products. And as I've said, this covers a wider range as before of different types of semi-finished and finished products, such as steel pipes, wires, and tinfoil. The tariffs that were at 10% are now becoming 25% across the range. So in the past, we had some at 10%. They're all now 25%, so more expensive. And the tariffs that were imposed last time around from the US have now been extended to cover more products. So now we have household products such as cookingware or window frames are in scope. Products that are only partly made of steel and aluminum, such as machinery, gym equipment, certain electrical appliances, or furniture are now in scope. So also, then we do know that the US Secretary of Commerce says that he will establish by May, I think, a system whereby the US will continue to extend the list of steel and aluminum derivatives products subject to this additional duty of 25%. So you see, it will affect billions of euros, and that will correspond to at least 5% of total EU exports to the US, which is quite significant. So, and based on that, if the EU analyzes, we will have a 6 billion euro cost the Europeans will have. They have to pay additional import duty of 6 billion euros. So what is the EU's response to that? So now, as I've already explained, there are two types of countermeasures. Number one, the reimposition of the 2018-2020 suspended rebalancing measures and the imposition of a new package of additional measures. So that means the 2018 and 2020 rebalancing measures will automatically be reinstated once their suspension expires on the 31st of March, or maybe a little later, depending on how the negotiations go, or ideally never. So at the time of this recording, we're in a limbo state here. But for the first time, it would also mean that these tariffs would not be applied only Annex 1 and not Annex 2, but in full. Okay, and that would then impact a full range of products from boats to bourbons to motorbikes, a lot. In addition to that, there'll be a new package of additional measures. So since the new US tariffs are significantly broader in scope and affect a significantly higher value of European trade, the European Commission launched on 12th of March the process to impose additional countermeasures against on the US. And these are scheduled to target approximately 18,000 billion worth of goods, which will then apply together with the reimposed measures from 2018. And the objective here is to ensure that the total value of EU measures corresponds to the increased value of trade impacted by the new US tariffs. Again, rebalancing, if you wish. So the first step in this process is to launch a consultation with EU stakeholders. These consultations aim to ensure that the right products are chosen for the inclusion in these new countermeasures. And at the time of this recording, this is where we are. I am working on several papers for several clients to explain to the Commission why this product or that product should or should not be part of the countermeasures. So this is what I'm working on right now. And what the EU wants to do is obviously not hurt the European industry, but at the same time make a effective and proportionate response to the US with keeping disruption to the EU and consumers to a minimum, albeit this can't be eliminated fully. So stakeholder consultation, then stakeholder consultation concludes, and then the final list is published and should then enter into force in April 2025. So I told you it was going to be a long speech and a long discussion, and then now you have it. Okay, so two countermeasures from the EU announced. Number one, stop the suspension of the 18 and 20 tariffs, restart those, let them apply in full, and a new package of measures to rebalance the trade. So if you don't do anything, US, we will not impose anything as well. If you cost us 6 billion, We will make you pay 6 billion. So in the end, we are back to zero, except everybody is worth off. Now, if you follow that logic, and if you believe in this logic, you know what you have to not do. Go ahead with this craziness. If you do not believe in what I have just explained and the logic of it, and you have a different logic, you may think that you should go ahead with these tariffs. I will not comment further. I will simply say that was the explanation to the question that you have asked. I hope I answered it. Thank you very much for asking it. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and hit me up if you have a question. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.